You're listening to the Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WYBC.
WCYTV.
Here on the Daily Signal.
Good evening and welcome to the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal, nationally syndicated, first on 93 WYBC, the Tony Kinnett Cast. We have got a lot to dig into this evening, so without further ado, the President of the United States has had an exceptionally busy 48 hours. Now, you may remember the last time that we had a president who flew all the way around the world and then had some things to do when he got home. Biden went into hiding for like a month at Camp David and then took an Ambien, so they say, and then got bent over and spanked like a parent upset about some spilled bathwater on the national debate stage. Now, the one doing the spanking, that being Donald J. Trump, he just got back from a major trip around the world to Israel and to Egypt, a cornerstone of his presidential legacy, and an actual cornerstone. I'm not talking about that god-awful Obama library cornerstone in Chicago. That thing's a disturbing, disgusting thing that, believe it or not, we will get to later on in the show. Trump gets home from the kind of United Delegation signing conference in Egypt at about 2:45, 3 a.m. He then turns around, does a major meeting with Javier Milei of Argentina, and another huge foreign policy shift that is being misconstrued by all of the extra thick glasses wearing economists on an upcoming trade war escalation with China, to then turn around and do on his 32nd birthday, honoring my friend Charlie Kirk with the Medal of Freedom. Here's President Trump.
He was assassinated in the prime of his life for boldly speaking the truth, for living his faith and relentlessly fighting for a better and stronger America. He loved this country. And that's why this afternoon it's my privilege to posthumously award Charles James Kirk, our nation's highest civilian honor, the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Thank you.
Now, I'm not going to play all of the clips from this. It was a beautiful ceremony. A lot of our friends were there. I was getting a lot of snapshots. Elizabeth Mitchell from the Daily Signal, our White House correspondent, has a story going up, if it's not already up at the Daily Signal. But the key moments, of course, were from Charlie's widow, Erica, who had two stories that were, one was an incredible showing of how beautiful Charlie and Erica's marriage was. This being the Medal of Freedom being the perfect birthday gift for Charlie. Here's Erica.
Honestly, President Trump, I have spent 7.5 years trying to find the perfect birthday gift for Charlie. And it's so difficult. And those of you that have spouses or loved ones, you know how difficult it is sometimes to buy a gift for someone that you love, because he wasn't a materialistic man, so that also did not help. But now I can say with confidence, Mr. President, that you have given him the best birthday gift he could ever have.
I've seen some comments from some imbeciles online suggesting that Erica has been like celebrating her husband's death and all giddy and happy. I will remind y'all, especially that for those of us from the Midwest, there is the grizzled widow archetype. The widow whose husband was taken in an untimely fashion, and she single-handedly gets her entire family together and presses on as though her husband is just out of the room and will be back at any time. I have seen my grandmother carry on like Erica. I have seen a lot of amazing women of varying ages, from their 20s to their 70s and 80s, carry on with the same strength that Erica has so bravely done for her children and for Turning Point USA. There's a clip that I'm not going to play, honestly, because I'm afraid that I'll start crying on air if I play it. A beautiful moment that you should go find of Erica talking about a birthday gift that their daughter wanted to give Charlie, and very, very sweet, incredible ceremony. And unfortunately, now we have to turn to the much worse news, because in the meantime, Chicago's riots are getting far worse. Far, far worse. And there's a trend. If any time you hear the left say there's just some peaceful protesting going on, and it's the law enforcement that are the issue, get ready for a round of mostly peaceful domestic terrorism. Every single time. Here's yet another case. So as you know, the Trump administration has dispatched ICE and Border Patrol units to the city of Chicago, Illinois. What for? To round up those who are criminal, illegal immigrants and to deport them from the United States, which is something that Americans voted for by every available poll. Mass deportation of illegal immigrants is the moderate position. It is held by the majority of Americans, according to all available polling. And now what we are seeing in Chicago, as some of our reporters are currently en route, we might have some interviews tomorrow. Don't want to promise anything just yet. We have a series of car accidents that are becoming the norm. So in Chicago, here's what is essentially become a rising trend. There will be an individual who cuts an ICE agent off in kind of a T-bone propping up intersection style maneuver. They will try to jam immigration or Border Patrol vehicles together into a car accident, or, as we've seen previously, they'll just ram their vehicles into Immigration Customs Enforcement agents. And then, it's always so amazing how the timing happens. This massive mob instantly descends and starts trying to prevent Immigration Customs Enforcement from leaving. Now, when I say this is becoming a trend, I'm not joking. This happened just earlier yesterday in Portland, according to Andy No over at the Post Millennial. Portland Antifa extremist Kylie Delgado, who was arrested at the 2020 BLM Antifa riots, posted a video of herself physically obstructing Homeland Security vehicles in Hillsboro, Oregon. So this is becoming a thing. Remember, by the way, a couple of years ago through to the last couple of months, when you would see from left-wing media coverage of these domestic terrorists in Germany or in Canada or in the United Kingdom who would drive their vehicles through people. Of course, there was that horrible terror attack in New Orleans where someone drove their vehicle through a crowd of individuals in, I think, a Christmas festival or a New Year's festival. I don't want to get that confused. And the media was very careful about saying, they say, well, there was a driver that lost control through a crowd of people. These are acts of domestic terror that are becoming more common. So after the car accident in Chicago today, a crowd descended. Here's footage from ABC7 in Chicago.
First got on scene and you were able to talk
and you
to
can
some
see
neighbors
this crowd of people waving, not the American flag, because, you know, God forbid, they're waving the flags of the countries that they illegally immigrated from, yelling at ICE agents, officers. And then you can see
it appears there might be
individuals that are throwing rocks at federal agents. That is attempted murder, and that is domestic terrorism. When you have people in a protest that are blocking traffic, are committing attempted murder, are assaulting, are vandalizing, are inciting a riot, that makes that protest a riot. That is how that evolves. You can see this happening in Chicago.
An attempt to start dispersing the crowds, but we have just in the last few seconds seen Chicago police who had remained at bay now starting to put themselves in the middle of the protesters are starting to throw rocks. We're going to get away from the scene right now, Judy.
Okay, Michelle, you take care of yourself.
Protesters begin throwing rocks because, of course, because they're animals. And then the law enforcement responds with a good old healthy dose of tear gas.
Being deployed right there at this intersection.
Nothing like a little light lung seasoning. Now, this has upset one beast more than any other, and I don't mean beast as in strength. I mean beast as in, oh dear God, someone get my harpoon. J.B. Pritzker, the governor of Illinois, he's rough and tough and filled with fluff like Winnie the Pooh, and he's ready to get out there and threaten the Trump administration because clearly that's where, that's what needs to occur. Radio crew, we got to send you guys over to commercial. So you want to see the Pritzker clip, which I recommend, live stream, youtube.com/Daily Signal or its Rumble equivalent. We'll see you guys after the commercial break. Sorry, FCC rules. I don't mean to break up the show that abruptly. Here's J.B. Pritzker getting tough.
The tables will turn someday. These people should recognize that maybe they're not going to get prosecuted today, although we're looking at doing that.
I'm sorry, hang on a second here. The tables are one day going to turn. Okay, easy there, Michael Scott,
Well, how the turntables
you know, aside from the brilliant musings of Pritzker there, I thought that future targeted prosecution, where you say someday we're going to prosecute you in the distance for something, I was told that was really bad by Letitia and Obama and Jack Smith. Oh, wait, we're going to talk about them later.
But they may get prosecuted after the Trump administration for the things that they did because the statute of limitations won't have run.
So now we're making threats that Illinois, I guess, might try to prosecute them over what? I'm not entirely sure. He's also not entirely sure. Now, this does bring us to some of the other unrest situations going on around the country. According to independent journalist Nick Shirley, in Portland, Oregon, there are now videos of U-Haul trucks that are delivering riot supplies. And why do I say riot supplies? Well, because they're not handing out like cardboard signs and paint stirring sticks. You know, they're not out there passing out glow sticks and condoms for the next rave. I mean, one would certainly hope not, given some of the people in the video, yikes. But they are passing out riot equipment. And so just, again, here on the live stream, if you're listening on the podcast, I'd recommend you check this out.
I'm here in Portland right now, and it looks like Antifa, the protesters here, have had a shipment dropped off in a U-Haul right here. They're saying it's all the stuff that's been taken away from rapid response and from people since they've been out here. So there's a whole U-Haul full of stuff that's been getting dropped off right now of all of the equipment from the past few months of their protest. You have all this stuff that's getting dropped off right here. You have all the inflatables as well.
The inflatables, yes, because nothing says fun after picking up your half a trash can and then, of course, your gas mask, like a bouncy castle that you're renting from Good Time. Producer Nick?
I'm unsure if we have the footage available, but Andy No, in a similar line of reporting, found in Portland that Antifa has been keeping stockpiles within storage units as well.
Now, I'm going to zoom in a little bit here if we can. With our expert high-speed quick camera technology on the Tony Kinnett cast, otherwise known as the drag tool in OBS. My. Look at Larry the Cucumber once promised me everyone has a water buffalo. This thing makes me a believer. I didn't know U-Hauls were rated for that kind of weight. Hoo boy. That's got more folds than a Chinese tablecloth. You know what I'm saying? Jeepers creepers. Oh, Vice President Vance did address Pritzker on Sunday on his hit with Stephanopoulos on ABC's This Week. I think it's definitely worth playing.
Yes, President Trump has said that he should be in jail. Do you think Governor Pritzker has committed a crime?
Well, I think Governor Pritzker has certainly failed to keep the people of Illinois safe. And it's interesting to me, you know, Governor Pritzker will talk a lot, I'm sure, about how bad Donald Trump is, about how bad I am, and about how bad the administration is. He is the governor of a state that where its biggest city has murder rates that rival the most violent places in the third world, George. Why is he so mad at Donald Trump for trying to keep Chicagoans safe? He should be mad at the criminals that he has failed to keep at bay. We're trying to help him, and we're trying to help the residents of his biggest city. I wish that he would let us, because he certainly isn't doing the job himself.
I asked if you agree with President Trump that Governor Pritzker has committed a crime.
Well, I think that Governor Pritzker has allowed a lot of people to be killed in the city of Chicago and elsewhere, George. I think that it's disgraceful, and I think that he absolutely should suffer some consequences for the fact that there are thousands of innocent Chicagoans who are dead because he failed to do his job.
It's really a yes or no.
All right, so again, you know, these are going to try to kind of box him into that. I do want to make this very clear that the argument behind the looking into of how Pritzker handled police department officials in the state level and then Brandon Johnson at the city level matters a whole lot. Now, we got to bring the radio crew back from commercial. Don't go anywhere. It's the Tony Kinnett cast here on the Daily Signal.
This is the Tony Kinnett cast on 93 WIBC.
All right, welcome back to the Tony Kinnett cast. For all of those over on the live stream and our, of course, broadcast partners on radio and TV, good to be with you. A lot of news. There was a group of media outlets who released kind of a joint not signing kind of unity group statement today. in a rejection of Pentagon rules put forward by the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth. So allow me to distribute what Hegseth says are the guidelines in order to receive Pentagon access. In order to be given access as press to the Pentagon, here are 3 things that he listed from his X account. Number 1, press no longer gets to roam free throughout the Pentagon. That's a big freaking red flag, by the way, we're going to get to in a second. Number 2, press must wear visible badge at all times they are on the property of the Pentagon. And number 3, credentialed press is no longer permitted to solicit criminal acts. That means not like, hey man, you want to smoke this weed? No, not those kind of criminal acts. We save, those kinds of debauchery for the chambers in the Senate. What Hegseth is referring to here is that you're not allowed to say, hey, do you want to violate U.S. classified document law by giving me that classified information? Hey, do you want to be an accessory to this investigation that is going to be a national security threat to the United States? Press can't do that in the Pentagon anymore. And believe it or not, a lot of news agencies did not agree to this pact. Now, here's the thing. I don't have the text of what the full pact says right here in front of me. I don't. Could there be other things that might make some kind of news agency go, yeah, that's one too many? Yes, that very well could be. As I don't have that in front of me right now at present, I cannot advocate for them because no one that I have seen, whether it be any of these signing or not signing news agencies, no one has released the actual text of the pact, the agreement, if you're going to get a press credential for the Pentagon. Those who refused to sign and agree to what Hegseth says are those terms. No longer allowed to roam free, have to wear a visible badge, credential press no longer permitted to solicit criminal acts. Those who did not sign include the New York Times, the Washington Post, the Wall Street Journal, the Associated Press, Reuters, The Atlantic, CNN, NPR, The Guardian, Newsmax, the Washington Times, the Washington Examiner, Task and Purpose, Breaking Defense, Defense One, the Financial Times, The Hill, Politico, and ABC and Fox News. The only group that I believe that has signed yes to the agreement right now is OAN, One America News. Now, I have a lot of respect for the crews, especially at Newsmax, Washington Examiner, Fox News. I'm going to be a little bit, Washington Times Examiner, I'm going to be a little careful here and suggest maybe there are a few other things that they are, being asked to sign on to that I don't have in front of me. However, I will say this. Journalists do not have some super magical right to access national security secrets. You don't. I'm sorry. I want the United States to have a couple of cards up its sleeves. Because you know who wins when national security secrets get exposed? All of our adversaries. You say, but that's not really transparent. Yeah, tough. I don't want you to know what Lockheed Martin's latest design is. I don't. I want, God forbid, if we're ever in a situation which like we're about to talk about with China, in which we need to eliminate the entire Chinese Navy like that and have them wondering what in the world is going on, but in Mandarin, I kind of want the US to be able to do that. I want the US military to be effective. I get it. All of these leaks that have been plaguing every administration nigh on eternity, when we can't even do anything with the State Department, we can't do anything with the Pentagon, with the Joint Chiefs of Staff, because someone's leaked something out trying to get a couple thousand clicks in an article in The Atlantic, Jeffrey Goldberg. I'm sorry, I know a lot of guys who are in the service who those actions threaten. I know a lot of guys in the private military company side of things whose lives that threatens. So I'm not suggesting so far that any of these outlets are right or wrong in this. I want to see the full document, but that is the news as we understand it right now. On to foreign policy in full, yet again, sorry for the repeating of terms here, escalation. The possibility of a trade war between the United States and China is again heating right up. This all has to do with Argentina. Now, there was a lot of media hubbub today about Javier Milei, the president of Argentina, coming into Washington, D.C., because the United States is preparing a $20 billion package of money that has already been allocated. It is already allocated to be spent on specific foreign aid projects. We cannot snap our fingers and take it away and give it to Medicaid recipients. It's already allocated. That $20 billion, President Trump wants to give to Javier Milei because right now, although he has turned the year-over-year inflation rate in Argentina from 212% a year, which is like a nice summer in Weimar, Germany, to 36% year over year. I don't think we've ever seen a country do that in the history of this earth. We've never seen it. Usually you have to burn down the country and start over, which Argentina has also done a multiplicity of times. Javier Milei is facing an upcoming midterm election. And believe it or not, there's a lot more at stake than just the midterm election that Javier Milei is up against. The economy essentially needs to kind of turn around and do even better than it's doing in Argentina, because it takes a lot to overthrow 100 years of policies. And so the Trump administration wants to support the Argentine government. Here's the president of the United States making that case today.
It's an honor to have you here. And I just want to tell you that your career has been an amazing one, and it's going to continue with the election. You're going to win the election. We're going to endorse you. I'm going to endorse you today. Fully endorse you. And, people in Argentina like me. A lot of people like me. I'm even surprised myself. But we had a great...
I think that, of course, the president of the United States welcoming the Argentine president, of course, being friends for a long time with Javier Milei and then Elon Musk as well, a libertarian president, excellent stuff. Javier gave him a framed copy of Argentina's nomination of the president for Nobel Peace Prize. Yeah, friends do in fact know what friends like. For example, producer Nick knows that I really like automatic field watches. As does David Maskura and kind of our friend on the TKC. You know what your friends want. You know that's what they enjoy. Javier knows President Trump likes that kind of stuff. Good things. The media loses it because they say this is some kind of a huge corruption operation. So I'm going to drop a few truths here that are uncomfortable, but the truth. Number one, I hate USAID. I despise it. I don't like anyone in the executive office throwing around money in kind of bribery schemes for other countries. That said, number two, if we have to use the money in a foreign measure, I would much rather it be used to give Beijing the middle finger, which is what this is meant to do. We're going to explain why in a second. I would much rather it do that than provide transgender comic books to Colombia, or atheism expansion in Nepal, or Sesame Street to Iraqi children. I would much rather it actually go to supporting the United States trade relationship between Argentina and the U.S. Number three, there are a few other things to work out in this because it's a much bigger game than just the U.S. and Argentina. Scott Bessent understands this better than most. Here he was a couple of days ago making this case to Laura Ingraham.
We get a lot out of it. Argentina is a beacon in Latin America. President Milei has done the right things. He is trying to break 100 years of a bad cycle in Argentina. He is also a great ally for the U.S. He'll be coming to the Oval Office next Tuesday, and he is committed to getting China out of Argentina. They're all over the place in Latin America. And when people say to me, how is this not America first? I'll tell you why it's not. Do you want to be shooting at more gunboats like in Venezuela? We do not want a failed state.
So this isn't a bailout?
Sorry, it's not a bailout at all. There's no money being transferred. The ESF has never lost money. It's not going to lose money here. I was in the investment business, mostly currencies, for 40 years. You're supposed to buy low, sell high, and the Argentine peso is undervalued.
We're going to send the radio crew over to commercial, continue this discussion over on the live stream. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal. Now, what's all this business about the Argentine peso and essentially a currency swap here? Because essentially the USA is giving dollars, the Argentinians are giving us pesos, which are excellent wallpaper, I've been told. Why actually make this valuable? Well, believe it or not, if the Argentine economy turns around and the value of the peso goes up, we do in fact increase the value of what's not a loan but is a base swap. It's a treasury gamble. If there's one guy that I trust to make a gamble with, again, as I've said, kind of USAID dollars already allocated. And I know that USAID is shuttered, but the money still does have to go to certain foreign projects. Again, not transgender plays and step in time down in Brazil. So I'll take it. Less narco-terrorism and also less cooperation from the Argentinians with China. Here's why this matters. Argentina grows a lot of soybeans. Now, where I'm broadcasting from, here in Indiana, although all of my colleagues at the Daily Signal are in Washington, D.C., we have a soybean field behind the house this year, and they harvested it today. What's the big dang deal about soybeans? Soybeans are the oil plant. They are crucial, not only to some kinds of feed, but also to the production of many kinds of oils that are crucial for both food and lubrication economies, especially in the organics, as well as a stabilizer for rubber compounds. Sorry, former science teacher kicks in there. So this is where it all boils down. On October 11th, President Trump tweeted, "It has just been learned that China has taken an extraordinary aggressive position on trade in sending an extremely hostile letter to the world, stating they are going to, effective November 1st, impose large-scale export controls on virtually every product they make, and some not even made by them. This affects all countries without exception and was obviously a plan devised by them years ago. It is absolutely unheard of in international trade, that is true, and a moral disgrace in dealing with our nations. Based on the fact that China has taken this unprecedented position and speaking only for the USA and not other nations who were similarly threatened, starting November 1st, or sooner, depending on any further actions or changes taken by China." I always love how he throws in the real estate clause. Or sooner, could be tomorrow, you don't know. It says the United States of America will impose a tariff of 100% on China, over and above any tariff that they are currently paying. And also on November 1st, we will impose export controls on any and all critical software, which is an export of the United States. That's very interesting, by the way. That's never been done before, I don't believe. That sounds like something Scott Bessent cooked up. I'm saying Mark Zuckerberg called, hello. And Scott Bessent cooked something like that up as kind of a trade push. Why does all of this matter? China produces 90% of the world's rare earth minerals. The U.S. relies, according to Stephen Moore of the Heritage Foundation, an excellent guy. The U.S. relies 100% on imports for 15 critical minerals and 95% on China for rare earths, from China and with Russia following up at second. These minerals are critical for our military and modern weapons, not to mention the infrastructure. You want to build new transformers in the United States that don't suck? I'm not talking the Autobots. I mean the transformers on our electrical grid. You got to have rare earths from China because the tweakers keep stealing all the copper. Another topic for another time. So it is important that we, of course, release certain aspects of the American mineral economy and that we provide an opportunity for Argentina, as well as other countries around the globe, to increase essentially in the bulwark against China. China imports a lot of soybeans from Argentina. So fine, what if Argentina sold all of their soybeans to us? China really needs oil from the soybean kind. We really need rare earths. We're going to be back with a second. We got to bring the Raider crew back from commercial. Don't go anywhere. Tony Kinnett Cast.
This is the Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WIBC.
You know those businesses that provide services that are essentially something that your kid could do? You know what I'm talking about? Like there are these businesses that provide services that are just really, really unnecessary. Welcome back to the Tony Kinnett Cast. I promise I'm going somewhere with this. That's kind of like China in a lot of ways. So China does in fact do some work on the industrial level that is useful and necessary because we haven't fully automated semiconductor and motherboard production, things like that. China is useful on some of those aspects, but China's also got a lot of businesses like refining soybeans into various kinds of oil, including cooking oils for the United States, because nothing says healthy like importing your cooking oil from China. So the increasing candor between the United States and China, and by candor I mean incoming trade war between these two countries, as it continues to escalate, Trump has now responded to China's export controls and very grumpy aggravation, we'll say, over the Argentina deal with the United States. Trump says, "I believe that China purposefully is not buying our soybeans because the U.S. and our farmers, for example, from Louisiana, Arkansas, all the way up into places here like in Indiana, we produce a lot of soybeans that should be for export. China doesn't buy soybeans from us. They buy soybeans from Argentina. He says it's an economically hostile act. He says we're considering terminating business with China, any kind having to do with cooking oil and other elements of trade. He means things that use soybean production as retribution. As an example, we could easily produce cooking oil ourselves, Trump brand olive oil, not from China, made with 100% olives, the best. And the president making it very clear we don't need to purchase it from China. Why does this matter? Because right now there's major strife inside the Chinese Communist Party. Besant has argued repeatedly that those in the Chinese government are essentially levying certain threats and challenges on the international community's stage without consulting with the very senior higher-ups at Beijing. You essentially have kind of bureaucratic chaos over there. The unemployment rate is skyrocketing. China really can't handle another big trade war with the United States. Their economy is already on a thread. And again, as J.D. Vance has done better than any, he knows this better than any. He has done a lot of his life's work in understanding modern manufacturing policy in the future for this country. To revitalize the Rust Belt and American manufacturing, it must be heavily invested in automation so that the American manufacturing worker is essentially built more on observing, running, administrating, and repairing automation lines here in the United States than importing slave labor from China and other countries. It is crucial for the American family to survive, building a good manufacturing policy that isn't just pretending we can all build cars by hand again, like Detroit in the 50s. And then at the same time, not just exporting all of our labor to foreign countries because, hey, the market is good for it. Now, this brings us over to other administrations, because right now the Trump administration really is spitting in the eye of the legacies of the Biden administration, the Obama administration, as well as the George W. Bush administration. We'll leave George alone for a second here, let him claim victory in Iraq or something, and we'll go over to the Biden legacy that is currently in serious trouble. Letitia James, the Attorney General of New York, who ran on the platform of going after Trump, she's having a rough time because she's been charged with bank fraud. And as we've said on the show here before, the problem with bank fraud is that it's freaking written down. It's not like some back alley murder that can take place where there's no CCTV cameras around and you just didn't happen to leave any DNA evidence around, or you're O.J. Simpson and you have a really good lawyer. No, this is one of those situations where the crime is committed on federally registered documents. Well, Letitia James, she's put up a tough front. She's revved up and ready to go here. She says, believe it or not, she's innocent, didn't do nothing. Play it.
We see powerful voices trying to silence truth and punish dissent, and yes, weaponize justice for political gain.
I always love it when a crowd doesn't know whether to boo or cheer. That always gives me the boo, yeah. It sounds like indigestion produced in mass. It's a Pepto-Bismol commercial.
We are witnessing the fraying of our democracy, the erosion of our system of government.
The verbs of our nouns.
This, my friends, is a defining moment in our history. Let us stand together to defend our rights, to protect every safeguard, every institution, every immigrant. Every norm and every rule of law.
Well, except, bank fraud. And harboring a fugitive from justice, which we'll get to here in a second.
You see, I know what it feels like to be attacked for just doing your job. But I also know what it feels like to overcome adversity. And so I stand on solid rock. And I will not bow. I will not break. I will not bend.
She's just going through all of the verbs that she has now. There's a little guy in the back behind the stage with a thesaurus who's like reading her new words he's found.
I will not capitulate. I will not give in. I will not give up.
By the way, the reason I say that that's a thesaurus situation, she starts with small words, and then the words get bigger, and then it goes into 2-word phrases that mean the same thing. That's how a thesaurus actually lists that. Just for the record, a little shout out from Webster's. So incredible stuff there from Letitia. There is a bigger problem here. Major hat tip to the Daily Caller News Foundation. They do stellar work. We've worked with them for a very long time. This is a serious problem for Letitia James. Now, according to correctional authorities also, the tenant in New York Attorney General Letitia James' Norfolk, Virginia house, her grandniece, Nakia Thompson, is a fugitive. Thompson, living rent-free with her 3 children in the $235,000 property since 2020, is listed as an absconder in North Carolina for evading probation after misdemeanor assault and trespassing convictions. Said Keith Ackery of the North Carolina Department of Corrections, quote, she faces arrest if located in North Carolina. Because, Virginia doesn't extradite to other states on a lot of these kinds of charges. By the way, Governor Glenn Youngkin, you have the opportunity to do the funniest thing ever right now. Winsome Sears, I know you're running for office as the lieutenant governor, and in order to be FCC compliant, I will not give you any advice to change your election. But I highly encourage, whether you're Abigail Spanberger, the Democrat candidate, who that was really close, I almost got in trouble there, or you are the Republican gubernatorial candidate, Lieutenant Governor Winsome Sears, by all means, read this story and come up with ideas. Now, the Daily Caller, this is a Daily Mail story, but the Daily Caller News Foundation did something that I just wish that I could do, though being here in Indiana, I'm not really close to any of these people, thank God. They just dispatched a reporter to the scene and showed up all eyewitness news style. So here you go, Daily Caller News Foundation. They showed up to the house of the fugitive.
Hi there. I'm a reporter with the Daily Caller News Foundation.
Goodbye. You're trespassing.
I'm sorry.
Trespassing. My kids are out here.
I understand. We mean no.
By the way, she says, you're trespassing. My kids are out here. Not trespassing. The public sidewalk in front of your house is not trespassing. Owned by the city. Fun little policy here. One of the reasons I don't want a sidewalk in front of my house is I lose land to the city. I don't want that to happen. I don't want a sidewalk in front of my home. I don't like it. Sorry, I grew up in the rural part of the state where there ain't no sidewalks. Your neighbors are behind tree lines and things. Public sidewalks are owned by the city. You give that portion of your land to the city in a payment when they build a sidewalk. So she's already wrong, but of course, she's a fugitive, so.
We mean no trouble. We're just curious who the occupants of the home are,
Don't worry about who's occupants. That's none of your business.
Well, there are connections.
So she says, you don't need to know who the occupants of the home are. That's none of your business. Yeah, that's not necessarily a thing. But we'll explain why in a minute. Radio crew, we got to send you to commercial. It's the Tony Kinnett cast. We're going to continue on the live stream. Okay, I want you to see where she goes with this. It's curious.
Connections to New York Attorney General Letitia James.
That doesn't matter. You're trespassing.
Are you related to Letitia James?
Do you know her?
You're trespassing. Go in the house.
So one says, her kid comes out to see what's going on. She yells, go in the house. Because the kid starts to answer questions, which, if you've ever had the wonderful pleasure of being pulled over by a police officer while your kid's in the back telling on you, that's a lot like this situation. So she says, do you know Letitia James? You're related to her. She says, that doesn't matter. You're trespassing.
Do you know Letitia James? No? Okay.
You're trespassing.
No comment. Thank you, ma'am.
Don't come up to my house no more.
Thank you, ma'am.
Don't come up to my house no more. Being on the public sidewalk, not coming up to your house. See those little cool steps there on the screen? Those are called stairs. And it leads to this cool thing called a porch. Amazing.
Thank you, ma'am. You have a good one.
You will. Be well.
I love it. Great work, Daily Caller News Foundation team. By the way, Brendan Gill, over from the Tapper over on a Tapper interview on CNN, he articulated why Americans are absolutely ready to see Letitia James get exactly what she deserves.
I agree with Letitia James whenever she stated that no one is above the law. And what happened here is a grand jury determined that there is sufficient evidence to bring to indictment allegations of mortgage fraud against her. She's going to have her day in court. It's going to be about 2 weeks from today, and we'll see what the court decides. But it looks like there is sufficient evidence here to reasonably say that she did indeed commit mortgage fraud. And if she did, she needs to be held to the same standards as anybody else would. I mean,
Brandon Gill's correct. By the way, a stellar up-and-comer. Texas is really popping out some of the most notable members in Congress of this generation. I mean, you've got so many excellent ones. You've got Brandon Gill. You've got Wesley Hunt running for Senate in Texas. Phenomenal guy. Phenomenal guy. He's been on Ruthless several times. And then, of course, Jasmine Crockett, she of the many accents persuasion in Congress. So there's a really weird situation now, not just with Letitia James and Biden's legacy, but also Jack Smith. Jack Smith, he's panicking, Anakin. He's having a rough time. Here's Jack Smith having a coronary just less than a week ago over on MSNBC on an interview.
The people on my special counsel team were like that. The idea that politics played a role in who worked on that case or who got chosen is ludicrous. And Andrew, you know, and this is another thing that I think if you're not inside the U.S. Department of Justice, the idea that politics would play a role in big cases like this, it's absolutely ludicrous, and it's totally contrary to my experience as a prosecutor.
Now, we do not have the time to play an excellent clip from Peter Meyer, a reality check over on CNN. Essentially, though, his description that it was clearly political because people in the Biden administration said, we need to charge Trump right now. We actually, if we're going to levy a charge, then let's do so now. And instead, the Department of Justice under the Biden administration, Merrick Garland's goof troop, they waited as long as possible, Jack Smith among them, to try to finagle it around election time so it would be bad publicity. We'll be back in a second because the media and the nonsense is nonstop. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast.
This is the Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WIBC.
Welcome back to the Tony Kinnett Cast here. Before we get over to Virginia Allen, because there's the Society of Journalist Professionals, which, if you believe that, I'll bet you think that it really is the Democratic Republic of North Korea. They have canceled 2 Christian journalists set to speak because the ethics committee head, who's a big Che Guevara fan, really doesn't like him. We'll get to that story in a minute. But in the meantime, the Obama legacy is also in serious trouble. And I love pointing this out. According to a FOIA hosted on www.obamalibrary.gov/digital research room/finding aids/records related President Obama's meeting James Comey John, and the link cuts off. President Obama met with John Brennan, his CIA director, on January 5th of 2017. And essentially the documents show that, yeah, Obama was the exact guy who set Donald Trump up for essentially to be the patsy in a well, it wouldn't be the patsy because he's the target, to be the target of a false treason investigation. One of the biggest obstructions of justice, not to mention a violation of the Espionage Act of 1937 that we've ever seen in this country's history. So I remember saying there will be additional documents that come out, and that one of the big pieces of the puzzle was going to involve, after James Comey, the director of the FBI under Obama, is indicted for anything, parking ticket, things go into discovery, and all of a sudden you start finding things like these FOIA documents that just so happen to show that President Obama met with John Brennan, his director of the CIA, and James Comey, director of the FBI, who I was told he didn't even meet with them. They decided that stuff on their own privately was supposed to be the new narrative. They made the decision to ignore intelligence community information that Russia had really hidden things about Hillary Clinton, like her tranquilizer use, to try to help Hillary Clinton win the election. And instead, the Obama team would later, through the means of the DOJ and the FBI, through James Comey, and then, of course, John Brennan, the CIA, and the media apparatus, and the entire Steele dossier, etc., would try to go on and push that Trump had colluded with Russia to overturn a legitimate 2016 election in his favor. And now Obama has been caught. What do you freaking know? Now, here's where things get fun. Obama can't help getting out in front of people and doing media because he's never really gotten over the fact that he's old news and the party's really starting to move on. And so he decides to make a very impassioned plea. Obama, he of the weaponization of the IRS and the DOJ. Here's how he feels about political prosecutions now. Here you go, yesterday.
Yeah, we don't want, kangaroo courts and trumped up charges. That's what happens in other places that we used to scold for doing that.
He said, using the IRS to target Christians, he said, directing FBI Director James Comey and CIA Director John Brennan to falsify information and waste millions of dollars and violate quite a few rights of individuals in the United States.
We want like our court system and our Justice Department and our prosecutors to be, and our FBI to be, just playing things straight and looking at the facts and not meddling in politics the way we've seen lately.
Oh yeah, looking at the facts. Just calling strikes as you see them, like saying Trayvon Martin could have been his son. The whole hands up, don't shoot narrative. Oh wow, I too. Oh, very very interesting coin flip. I want to get your take, and then I want to ask you a question, producer Nick.
I just wanted to say about the FOIA. Due to the nature of the FOIA, we do not know who actually requested them because that's part of it is not released. But whoever did so had to go through the process and specify. You have to be very specific about what you believe the documents exist. So they had to look at government officials and say, I know you have documents detailing this meeting. And then they had to go, yeah, you got us. We kept documents about the meeting.
That's what's okay. I have, as a guy who has given a lot of FOIA advice from the education side of things, I'm actually going to be speaking on FOIAs at the Moms for Liberty Joyful Warriors Summit later this week. Fun little ad there. But in the meantime, regarding FOIAs, he's correct. The level of detail you have to put, this is why I was valuable as a former teacher and administrator. When I would advise people to get into FOIAs, I sat under Gloria Ladson Billings on critical race theory classes. So I understand all of the terms and their synonyms and their analogies and their different ways that they phrase things, because you have to list all of the terms that you're looking for. So Nick's right. They knew this meeting had to happen at this exact time, because if you get the hour wrong, they can say, oh, no meeting occurred at this hour. Body language expert, because we talked about this yesterday. For those who are watching, if you're on the podcast, you have to come back and find it.
Yeah, we don't want.
Tell me, Mr. Body language expert here, you're speaking into the exact same kind of microphone that Obama is using there. What is the body language of the former president giving to you right now?
So to describe to our listeners, his arms are closed very tightly, and his right leg is crossed over his left. And if we read into this based off body language, he is very closed off about the subject that he's talking about and does not want to be talking about it.
Obama's got kind of his famous stutter where he's trying to find words. They're, you know how they always make fun of white people for clapping on 1 and 3 instead of 2 and 4 in a beat? Obama's stutters are usually on kind of 2 and 4. Before he begins a thought, he'll go,
it has a cadence to it following his thought process.
Right. His totally out of step here. No cadence at all. The stutters are in the opposite parts of the sentences.
Kangaroo courts and trumped up charges. That's what happens in other places that we used to scold.
The awkward, nervous laughter.
For doing that. We want like our court system and our Justice Department and our prosecutors to be, and our FBI to be, just playing things straight.
You can feel how awkward and stale the air in the room is.
It really, really is. So again, things are moving quite interestingly at this point. And again, we actually have an administration, believe it or not, who is taking the time to go through these reports and, again, the entire argument regarding status quo antebellum, which is what I think a lot of Americans want to return to, where we trust our government agencies, no one's doing political prosecution, everyone is acting above board, we are united as a country against a common external enemy. That's how a country flourishes, especially as a republic. Thomas Jefferson and Alexander Hamilton agreed on this as the earliest political squabble in the country, if you want to toss aside some of the Whiskey Rebellion stuff. So, why does this matter now? To get back from the political prosecution territory, those who have committed justifiably verifiable, objective crimes that you can point out, no matter how big or small, who participated in political prosecution themselves, like Obama, like James Comey, like John Brennan, like Jack Smith, like Letitia James, like Fani Willis, they must be held to account. Because if you do not hold them to account, it will just happen, because then you get away with it. After all, what is one of the most common jokes among the right now? That if Congress doesn't like something, what are they going to do? They're going to write a strongly worded letter and then nothing. I'm sure the live chat on the show is saying it right now. I don't even have to look. Yep, 1, 2, there you go. I'm not surprised to see it there already. The strongly worded letter is a consistent pattern. We need to come out of that and find active retribution, especially in the cases of Antifa and the groups funding them. Radio crew, we'll catch you guys on the other side of the show tomorrow. This is the Tony Kinnett Cast. We're going to continue on the live stream. Y'all take care. All right, I've got 2 quick things for you before the end of the show. One of them is, of course, a journalistic professionalism super duper group that has decided Christian journalists, mainly that Mary Margaret Olohan, the White House correspondent for the Daily Wire, and Virginia Allen, my colleague, senior reporter at the Daily Signal. We got a chance to talk with Virginia a little bit about this entire situation that's unfolded. It's pretty wild stuff. Here you go. We go over to Virginia Allen, our senior reporter, not to mention the most recently canceled journalist. Virginia Allen, thanks for joining us.
Hey, it's great to be with you, Tony.
The Society of Professional Journalists, which I'm very proud of saying without retching, they host an annual conference. And they had invited you and our colleague, Mary Margaret Olohan, the White House correspondent for the Daily Wire, to be on a panel of sorts to talk about some important journal stuff. Because, again, there are journalists out there who aren't on the far left, who might want to learn a thing or two.
Absolutely.
And I'm told that you got banned from the conference. Tell us what happened.
Exactly. So Mary Margaret and I were super privileged to be invited over the summer to speak on a panel at this conference, specifically on the faith track for this conference, because as MediaFest recognizes, for so many Americans, our faith does highly affect and impact the way that we report, and for consumers of news, it highly affects their religious views, highly affects the way they consume news. So I'm a Protestant, I'm a Christian, I love the Lord. I was super excited at the opportunity to speak at this conference and be able to share, hey, as a Christian, that trickles in and definitely influences and affects how I report, and even just the way in which I think about my sources, that, they're not just sources, but they're human beings and they're people. And to be able to kind of bring that and offer that was beautiful. And Mary Margaret has a beautiful faith. I know her personally as a friend. She's Catholic, and it was going to, I think, be a really great balance to have both the Catholic and Protestant perspective on this panel. So we were both really honored. But then about a month after we were invited, we were emailed and told essentially that we were uninvited because of some of the reporting we had previously done. The organizers of the conference had reviewed our work and weren't comfortable with having our voices present at that conference. And when we pressed and asked a little bit further why, there was only one piece that I was sent and told that this was something they took issue with. And it was a piece that I wrote at the end of July titled 1,300 Unaccompanied Alien Children Located, that was talking about the Trump administration, really their campaign to find those missing migrant children, and the work that DHS and all of the Trump administration have done to track down these kids.
I want to read you this quote from the Columbia Journal Review, which I am surprised to find out is not a brand of toilet paper. But anyway, the Columbia Journal Review wrote, quote, Michael Korozetsky, the SPJ, that would be the Society of Professional Journalists, Ethics Committee Chairman, which we're going to get back to in a second if this is their Ethics Committee Chairman, who set up the Zoom call and helped program the talks, said of Allen and Olahan, quote, "We did it because they were selectively quoting and manipulating the news to bolster their opinion. He doesn't believe in protecting students from anti-trans or anti-abortion views or other rhetoric. Quote, if you're going to be a journalist," he said, quote, "you're going to run into a lot worse than this." So he's trying to simultaneously say you guys were canceled because you selectively quoted and manipulated the news, but then said that it's not because you guys are against transgenderism or abortion being, I know, Christian women.
Shocker that we hold to biblical values.
How much do you believe this? Yeah.
Look, I'll say I think it is a little, it certainly comes across as a bit hypocritical that, as journalists, we take great pride in reporting the facts and putting out the information as it is reported. In my case, in the story that I wrote on, I reported on straight reports from the Trump administration of them saying, hey, this is what we're accomplishing. And, statements that they have put out, including statements that are critical of the Biden administration for losing track and losing the location of many, literally thousands of children that cross the border unaccompanied. And so I do take issue with saying that, our reporting is somehow, not just true to the facts, because we're very careful. I can speak certainly for myself, but I would also make the argument certainly for Mary Margaret that we're very careful to uphold journalistic standards in our reporting. And then furthermore, I think it's just a pretty sad commentary on the fact that that the organizers of this conference can't be comfortable hosting a faith track with individuals, with reporters who openly uphold the biblical values that are as old as time, of sticking to traditional values, biblical values related to marriage and gender ideology. That shouldn't be a shocker for anyone. Biblical values don't change. It's society and culture that choose to change. And so that's something that certainly neither myself, and I'm sure, nor Mary Margaret will apologize for.
Yeah, I didn't think so. You guys maybe are more kind and straight to the news style journalist, reporter people. That's not me. So I'm going to say a little bit. Michael Koretsky, Mr. Super Ethics Committee Chairman, fired from Florida Atlantic University. This guy, he operates by the name Journo Terrorist, with a picture on his social media and website of Che Guevara. So, nothing like violent revolutionaries who murdered all of the people, not to mention would often rape women in front of crowds. What a role model. Anyway, Koretsky he's previously doxed people working at restaurants who didn't wear the mask all the way over their nose in 2020. He went after the Jews for criticizing COVID-19 policy and put up an article of a Jew in a gas mask with the Jewish hat and the curly side thing, like a big oy vey. So this guy is a piece of work. And I'm just going to be honest. If this is the kind of guy that's going after two of the kindest young Christian women that I know, you guys are doing something right.
Well, thanks, Tony. I appreciate that. It's certainly not going to dissuade us from continuing to do exactly what we're doing, which is report the news, report it honestly, and also elevate the voices of other conservatives.
Virginia, we really appreciate you, and we know for certain that you will continue the excellent line of reporting, despite what a society of professional journalists says otherwise. Thanks again.
Well, thank you, Tony. Always a pleasure to join your show.
All right, very quickly here. I do want to go over a story the left is trying to make the front pagiest of front page news. This is from Politico. And here's the headline. Ooh. Quote, I love Hitler, quote, leaked messages expose young Republicans' racist chat. It's a Politico exclusive from Jason Bieferman and Emily No. And they animated the headline, they animated the featured image in the article with a bunch of messages popping up. I always notice whenever Time Magazine or a political outlet really wants to try to stress how super duper ultra bad the right is, they'll have like the White House flooded with water and have Trump floating in it, or they'll have some big animated, takes time to make GIF or video, whatever that they put up, to some animated nonsense. It's just really sad. You're trying too hard. But here's the story. So, quote from New York: leaders of young Republican groups throughout the country worried what would happen if their Telegram chat ever got leaked, but they kept typing anyway. They referred to black people as monkeys and the watermelon people, and mused about putting their political opponents in gas chambers. They talked about raping their enemies and driving them to suicide, and lauded Republicans who they believed support slavery. And then they start listing a bunch of members from around the country who have participated in these particular Telegram chats. And the left is sharing this everywhere, going, aha, they're all Nazi fascists. They're going to kill everyone. They've said all these horrible things. Finally, we have them. I'm going to be honest with you. The timing of this story is absolutely hilarious. Why? Number one, the timing of this story. Jay Jones, who is the Democrat nominee, or I should say the Democrat candidate, for Attorney General in the Commonwealth of Virginia. He is in the middle, he being Jay Jones, is in the middle of a major scandal because he sent out text messages in which he looked forward to the deaths of his, like, someone he didn't like politically, the former Virginia Speaker of the House of Burgesses or whatever, the guy's wife and kids, and said if he was in a room with Pol Pot and Hitler and then this guy, 2 bullets for this Republican guy because he hated him. And also he sent other messages and texts saying that he was also totally okay if a bunch of police died so that people felt bad. So piece of work running for election. So now, a couple weeks later, after the race in the Virginia Attorney General, and by the way, down the slate, Republicans have gained because no Democrats have called for Jay Jones to step out of the race. Politico steps forward with this major article on this private group chat of some dudes, I guess, from young Republican chapters. That's and by the way, not only are a lot of these chats rather old, I'm gonna drop a couple of pieces of truth here. I've read through all of these text messages or these Telegram group chat messages. There are 3 essential truths. Number 1, what was said in the context that Politico provided, which was scant. In the context that was provided, a lot of it were jokes. Dark jokes, perhaps. Dirty jokes, perhaps. Guys in a group chat alone sending dark and dirty jokes? Yes, hello, let me introduce you to 75% of the men in this country. They do. I have seen messages galore sent by individuals everywhere. Black, white, red, yellow, brown, green, who have sent some rather dark messages. They have. They have sent things, and they have made fun of things, and they have said whatever. Dark stuff. Dave Chappelle comedy sketch style stuff. Ooh. And I'm going to be honest, from some of the context that's provided, some of these messages are. The I love Hitler message. Yeah, I'm going to level with you guys. The neo-Nazi Fuentes people who actually really do think Hitler was kind of cool, they think he was a good dude. Yeah, they don't go around going, boy, I really love Hitler. I really love him. He's so great. I don't see that. So that's the first thing. A lot of these things appear to be jokes. Number 2, the Young Republicans has since come out and denounced these statements and said those guys should resign from their positions. All right, fine. Yeah, I mean, the things that were said in the group chat were wrong. And that's a risk that you play. You get in group chats, you send things that are inappropriate, you run the risk of those things being exposed in the same way that if you send nudes of yourself or your significant other and you store those on your devices, you run the risk of those being leaked to the general population. Now, A.G. Hamilton made a rather important point that if you send private messages on like a corporate, like a Young Republicans affiliated group chat, you're asking for this. Say, Tony, what are you talking about? I was part of an organization called the Lone Conservative. And we had a large random like group chat that we would chat in. We didn't send things like this. But, you'd make fun of people from time to time and you just, it's a group chat. You might say things that you wouldn't say in a press release. Like, I really don't like this person that's supposed to be an ally of the movement. That kind of stuff. And we were always told that someday this might be leaked in a Politico article. Well, by the way, here you freaking go. Anything you put online can and will eventually be leaked online. Yeah, it's the internet. It's not secure. Now, that's number 2. Number 3, and the most important thing that I cannot stress enough. While these messages may not be super duper, just in the same way that when Kyle Kashev had a Google document when he was like 13 in which he used the N-word, and Harvard used that as justification not to accept him into Harvard University or whatever. While the Democrats are still running the candidate who called for the deaths of political rivals and people who have openly celebrated the death of Charlie Kirk. By the way, I've looked for the celebrating rape messages that they're talking about. Yeah, I'm not seeing the super duper seriousness. Nah. I'm not upset. Sorry. Also, the guys that they showed who are sending a bunch of these messages are just like fat dudes in state young Republican leadership, which is a small organization in and of itself. YR has a lot of really excellent people. I think either a YAF event or I think I may have spoken at a YR event in Indianapolis before. None of these dudes were there. There's like a Kansas and like a New York guy there. There's a couple of fat dudes telling dark jokes and saying inappropriate things. Yeah, welcome to the internet, boys, girls, and squirrels. None of these are running for office, so why run the story? You know why they ran the story. You know why right now they've leaped out with this particular story. Come on. I know several people over at Politico. They do this all the time. They do. They talk about it internally in the company. Oh, what a prescient story to run right now. And it just so happens that after the scandal that has wrecked the Democrat ticket in Virginia, my, look at this story, which comes out. Oh, Republicans are all super ultra bad. And now, by the way, you have Democrats coming forward and saying, oh, Trump's rhetoric. He's raised an entire generation of super bad, old, stinky, terrible people. This is Trump and his rhetoric. Trump has raised these children. Get out of here. You don't get to play that. First of all, you don't get to play that game because you don't claim any responsibility for the rhetoric of the domestic terror incidents around the country. Number 2, I don't see any of these guys actually going around and firebombing cities or assassinating political opposition, even if they do say things that are stupid and they're idiots for putting them in a public group chat. And number 3, you have candidates right now that are threatening and saying far worse stuff. And you have nothing for that one? I'm sorry, every single group chat in existence right now, with anyone that's not a group chat completely comprised of homeschool girls, from 30 on down. So if you are 30 or younger and you're in a group chat, I guarantee you there have been at least 3 9/11 jokes in that group chat, at least. Giving things a 9 out of 11, a picture of George Bush being told the second tower was hit. Those are common dark humor memes that are often used in millennial and Gen Z and Gen Alpha humor. What do you want me to do? Get out here and claim that, oh, I will repent and be moral and justifiably wonderful, like the people who have Che Guevara on their profiles and celebrate the mass murder of children in the United States via abortion and the permanent sterilization of children, and arguing sometimes it's okay to kill someone if they're a United Healthcare CEO and this kind of crap. Miss me with that. Nah. So with that, I hope you guys have a positively stellar evening. We will be back tomorrow, same great time, same great place, 7 p.m. Eastern here on the Tony Kinnett Cast. I'm Tony Kinnett. We're syndicated nationally, first on 93 WIBC. Take care.